A wedding no one believed would happen was about to begin in the small town of Norwich. On that bright Saturday morning, the chapel bell echoed across the square. Neighbors filled the benches, whispering about what they called the strangest event of the year. The bride was Lillian Carter, 32 years old, a black woman with a tender smile and a life shaped by hardship. She wore her caretaker's uniform as her wedding dress, drawing laughter and stares from the crowd. The groom, Henry Collins, stood beside her, in a suit so worn it seemed pulled from a donation bin. To the onlookers, he was nothing more than a drifter. And Lillian, they thought, was making the biggest mistake of her life. But what no one in that chapel knew was that behind Henry's tired eyes lay a secret that would leave them speechless. Have you ever felt judged for your choices? Or for your appearance? Share your story in the comments, and let us know where you're watching from. The ceremony began. Reverend Thomas Hale asked solemnly if anyone had reason these two should not be joined. The room went quiet, though whispers still rippled, like restless wind between the pews. Lillian could hear the muffled chuckles, the condescending stares, the pity in people's eyes. Her chest tightened, but she stood tall, fingers wrapped firmly around Henry's withered hand. When the moment came for her vows, her voice quivered at first, then rang steady. Henry, I don't care about your past, your clothes, or what others may say. I choose you because of your heart, the way you listen, the way you care, the way you make me feel safe. I love you with everything I have. A few guests rolled their eyes. Others shook their heads in disbelief. They could not understand why she would choose him. Then Henry spoke, his voice low, gentle. Lillian, you saw me when no one else noticed. You loved me when I had nothing to offer. You are my greatest gift, and I promise to cherish you for the rest of my life. For a moment the room was still. Then laughter broke out across the chapel. Some tried to hide their smirks, but the mockery was clear. Rosa leaned toward her friends and whispered loudly, the rest of his life, he doesn't even have a roof over his head, comma. Elaine stifled a giggle. Even the witness shook his head in disbelief. But then something unexpected happened. Henry raised a hand toward the pastor. Please, before we finish, may I speak? Reverend Hale hesitated, then gave a slow nod. Henry stepped toward the microphone. His worn shoes squeaked against the floor. His crumpled suit looked even smaller beneath so many doubtful eyes. The room grew still. Everyone braced themselves, certain his words would bring more embarrassment. Henry's gaze swept across the congregation, his voice steady, carrying a strength no one expected. I know what many of you think of me. You laugh at my clothes, at my shoes, at the way I appear. You believe Lillian has made the worst mistake of her life. You pity her. You think she deserves someone better. The silence that followed was heavy. No one responded, but guilty expressions revealed the truth. Henry drew a breath and spoke again. But here is the truth. I am not the man you assume I am. I am not poor. I am not homeless. I am not defined by these clothes. My name is Henry Collins. I am the founder of Collins and Partners, a property firm in the capital. I am a wealthy man. The room froze. No one moved. I chose to live this way because I wanted to know if anyone could love me for who I truly am, not for what I own. Lillian is that person. She stopped when no one else even glanced my way. She offered me food, her time, her care. without asking for anything. She is the only reason I am here today. The tension thickened, every word landing heavy like a stone in water. And if you came today to laugh, then I hope you now understand. The real joke is on those who judge without ever knowing the truth. The chapel froze again. Gasps filled the air. Rosa's mouth fell open. Elaine's eyes widened. Margaret's face burned with shame. The laughter vanished. Uneasy silence took its place. People shifted in their seats, unable to meet his eyes. Lillian stood motionless, her heart racing, tears welling in her eyes, not only from joy, but from the deep ache of knowing how quickly love could be mocked, and how harshly it could be misunderstood. She whispered under her breath, "Why didn't you tell me, comma?" Her heart was split in two, overflowing with love, yet pierced by betrayal. She had embraced Henry believing he had nothing, giving him her whole heart without condition. Now she realized he had hidden the truth from her all along. After the ceremony, as guests surrounded them with sudden smiles and hollow respect, Lillian pulled Henry aside. Her voice trembled. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me stand there humiliated, in front of everyone? Do you know how that felt?" Henry reached for her hand. "Lillian, please, I needed to know. My whole life women came to me for money. I drowned in shallow promises and empty affection. I was desperate for something real. Then I found you, I had to be sure." But Lillian pulled away, tears streaking down her face. "You tested me, Henry. Love is not a game. You should have trusted me from the start." She turned and walked out of the chapel, leaving Henry standing alone, crushed under the weight of his wealth and his mistake. The days that followed were heavy. Lillian shut herself inside her modest flat in Norwich, ignoring Henry's calls. She felt torn apart. One part still loved him, but another part felt deceived. Again and again she replayed the moment in her mind. The cruel laughter, the gasps of shock, the way people's respect changed instantly when his wealth was revealed. It broke her heart to realize their admiration was never for love, but for money. 2 weeks later, a knock came at her door. Henry stood there, his beard trimmed, his shoes polished, his suit neat. He looked like a stranger, a man she had never truly known. In his hands he held flowers, in his eyes only pleading. "Lillian," he said quietly, "I know I hurt you. I should have trusted you from the beginning. But please believe me, I acted out of fear. I lost so much to people who only wanted my fortune. I was terrified. But you showed me a love I thought I'd never find. Please, forgive me." Lillian stood frozen, tears tracing her cheeks, her voice faint. "I never cared about your money, Henry, not once. All I wanted was honesty. I married you because I loved you as you were. Don't you see, that was enough." Henry placed the flowers gently in her hands. His voice softened. "Then let me make it right. Let me give you the celebration you deserve. Not because of wealth, but because you are worth more than anything I own." Weeks later, the town witnessed the most beautiful wedding Norwich had ever seen. The chapel shimmered with roses. Chandeliers lit the room with golden light. Guests entered in awe. Lillian walked gracefully in a radiant white gown. Henry stood tall at her side in a tailored suit. But more than the splendor, it was the look in their eyes that silenced the crowd. Rosa, Elaine, and Margaret sat quietly this time, humbled and ashamed. No whispers, no mockery, only silence. And as Lillian walked down the aisle, she was no longer seen as a caretaker in uniform. but as a woman deeply cherished, honored, and loved for who she truly was. As the ceremony drew to a close, Henry turned toward the gathering. His voice was calm, but carried a weight that filled the chapel. "This day is not just ours," he said. "It is a lesson for everyone. Never judge love by appearances. Never laugh at what you don't understand. Real love is rare, and when you find it, honor it. In the end, it is not wealth or status that sustains a marriage. It is loyalty, compassion, and love itself." The crowd erupted in applause, some with tears streaming down their cheeks. Lillian smiled through her own tears. She had forgiven him. And in that moment they both knew their story would remain in people's hearts as a lasting reminder. What began in whispers and mockery ended in respect and admiration. What started with judgment ended in awe. Together Lillian and Henry proved that true love had nothing to do with riches or outward appearances. It was about recognizing the heart of another person and choosing them again and again. Their story spread through Norwich and soon beyond. Parents repeated it to their children. Churches shared it in sermons, and couples drew strength from it. Lillian, once the caretaker ridiculed for her simple dress, became the woman who showed the world that love, real love, is never about the outside. And in the quiet of their home, when the noise of the world faded, Lillian and Henry would sit side by side, fingers intertwined, grateful for the journey that had brought them together. They knew they possessed something no wealth could ever buy. What about you? Have you ever experienced something like this? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know where you're watching from.